Well, the Washington Post should have just come to Kansas City for part of this big editorial board piece that they wrote, ripping the likely next mayor of New York City. It's 8:05 on a Victory Monday here in Kansas City. Glad to have you here on KCMO. So I never thought I'd be giving props to the Washington Post editorial board, but I will. The only mistake they made is not looking at how things have gone here in Kansas City and using that to make their point. So this dropped over the weekend. The Washington Post editorial board ripped Democratic Socialist New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. Of course, a lot of people around the country have been looking at that race and questioning what it means for the country's largest city and also for the future of the Democratic Party. But the Washington Post said that his pie-in-the-sky proposal to eliminate bus fares would only benefit the city's homeless and drug users. The Washington Post writing here in an op-ed yesterday, vagrants and drug addicts would camp out all day on New York's buses, especially in the winter. The board predicted parents would grow afraid to let their children ride alone. Well, why don't you guys just come and study what happened here in Kansas City, where we implemented free bus fare in the wake of the Summer of Love in 2020. And this was something that Kansas City was trending towards for a while because we had the ridiculous free streetcar. That is not free. It's just subsidized by the taxpayer. But Kansas City knows that, if they charge for that streetcar, no one's going to ride it. I mean, even less people that currently ride it are going to ride it. So they got to justify it by having it be free, air quotes, even though there's no free lunch. But that's a bad look because if you got the streetcar that's free for people out of town and people coming in from Johnson County and, people of means downtown, and then you're charging the working poor people a couple of bucks to ride the bus, what does that look like? That's the problem in politics. No one ever thinks, 2 steps ahead. So they're like, all right, fine, we'll just make it all free. The buses can be free too. And what do you know? You got people who are going on the buses who are now packing heat. You got bus drivers now packing heat on these buses in Kansas City because they don't know who's going to step on that bus and what their intentions are going to be. You do have homeless people and vagrants and drug users all over the Kansas City bus system. There has been some reporting on this locally, not as much as there should be, in my opinion. But, if you're someone who has been in that situation, you just reach out to me. And if you want to be anonymous, that's fine. You can text in at 913-408-7957, or you can call in. But what I do know is this. The free bus has not led to more people using the bus. Cost aside, since COVID, we have not topped the number of riders on the KCATA. Think about that. It is free. And the ridership is less than it was before COVID. Ask yourself why that might be. And if you say, well, it's because more people are working from home, that's true in white-collar jobs. Listen, the people who are riding the buses are not doing work-from-home jobs. You know that, and I know that. So please spare me that whole thing. It's because people are voting with their feet and they're saying, I'm not going to ride this thing. I'm not going to risk getting on this bus. I will walk. I will take an Uber. I will find another form of transportation. I will get myself a car. But just because the bus is free and we put the word free on something doesn't mean it's a good policy. Doesn't mean it's going to work. In fact, oftentimes it means it's going to get worse. Look at the government shutdown right now. That's all tied to Obamacare. What were we told? That was going to be a great thing for the American people. It was going to reduce the cost of health insurance. And here we are 15 years later arguing over how much we should subsidize a system that is becoming unaffordable for everyday Americans and Americans who are making six figures who need their Obamacare subsidized. Not the working poor here. We're talking about people making six figures who need their Obamacare subsidized. Ask yourself why on that. So all this stuff ties together. The Washington Post went on to mock Mamdani for brushing off nearly $800 million his plan would cost the city each year, saying on the editorial board of the Washington Post, "Oh, is that all?" sarcastically. noting that the candidate has proposed a number of pricey improvements to New York City's bus system that he wants to implement if elected, including service upgrades, new loading zones, and dedicated bus lanes citywide. See, here's what they never think about big picture. And I would say the same thing for Kansas City with the bus system. While Kansas City's only 500,000 people in the city limits compared to 8 million people in New York City, you can't change human nature. New York's problem would be much worse and on a much larger scale than what Kansas City has dealt with, just because it's 16 times the size of Kansas City when it comes to city limits. But you can't change human nature. Making stuff free doesn't mean that you just get the best of the best. Doesn't mean that just regular working day people are the only people that are going to get on a bus, whether it's in New York or Kansas City. It doesn't change the reality of human nature, which is that people who are struggling, who are addicted, who are on the streets, are going to say, if I can get on this warm bus in the middle of January and sit there, I'm going to do it. And that means they're bringing all their problems with them, which means the people that you insist that you're trying to help here, because let's be honest, the rich people don't ride the bus. They're the ones who have their service impacted by all this. They're the ones who end up losing out of all this. Like so many of these policies supposedly about helping the working men and women, they actually hurt those very people that they insist they're trying to help. It's true on health care. It's true on stuff they claim is going to be free. It's true on their housing policy. All of these things end up hurting the little guy. And if they try this in New York City, the results will be obviously much worse than they are in Kansas City just because of size and scope. And they may have to ultimately learn the hard way. Just like the world right now. You look at what's going on the world stage. The president of the United States has been in Israel so far today as he has ended the 2-year war between Hamas and Israel. Hostages have been released. And, you know, history does repeat itself. And we are learning today a very important reminder that trying to appease the worst actors on the planet is no way to run foreign policy. That is what we are getting reminded of again this morning as the president is taking a victory lap overseas. You see his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, right behind him right now. They are on the tarmac in Israel at the airport, getting set to board Air Force One. You see Ivanka Trump as well, and those two have kept a pretty low profile during this second Trump administration until this morning. Mike Huckabee is there as well, so this is quite a scene. But also a reminder, when you try things that fail, don't do it again. And for the last 4 years, prior to the president getting back in the White House, there was an attempt at appeasement. It failed, just like it did during the Obama years. And now, peace through strength is back on the table. It is working. And there is, for now, for today, 20 hostages back home with their families and peace in the Middle East. So that is a welcome sign, and it is a historic day in that part of the world, as we've been covering all morning long here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.